420 Radio provides advertisers a marijuana-related on-demand platform skewed toward older adults that meets Colorado and other legal states' advertising restrictions. Visit 420radio.org/advertise to learn how you can place web ads that are immune to ad block software and audio ads heard live on 420 Radio and stored permanently in the enormously popular Russ Belville Show podcast. 420 Radio is heard by legions of dedicated fans who make up the activist leadership and entrepreneurial base of serious marijuana law reformers. Our audience is older, better educated, and more financially secure than most marijuana-related media can boast. Learn more at 420radio.org/advertise. Imagine life without taxes. Let New Era Certified Public Accountants, NewEraCPAs.com, handle your Cannabis 280E and tax strategy. Get your business prepared with New Era CPA's Cannabis Finance Bootcamp. NewEraCPAs.com, with years of experience in the industry, we are one of the nation's leading accounting firms for growers, dispensaries, and ancillary companies from Washington to California. NewEraCPAs.com. It's time for the 420 Radio News, covering the latest headlines in consumer cannabis, medical marijuana, and industrial hemp. Replays of 420 Radio News are embeddable and shareable from our SoundCloud page at soundcloud.com/RadicalRuss. Now, the marijuana headlines in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. This is your 420 Radio News for Tuesday, September 15th, 2015. Marijuana legalization in Colorado gets bad marks in a new report, showing a 32% jump in marijuana-related traffic fatalities, big increases in emergency room visits and hospitalizations, and greater pot usage by youths aged 12 to 17. The bad news doesn't stop there. The Rocky Mountain High-Intensity Drug Trafficking Area's third annual report showed 40% more school expulsions, most of them marijuana-related, since 2008. Greater exposure of young children to the drug, a 2,000% increase in the number of Colorado mail parcels intercepted destined for other states, and 32 marijuana extraction lab explosions in 2014. The Rocky Mountain Agency, which covers parts of Colorado, Wyoming, and Utah, is one of several monitoring organizations across the U.S. operated through the Office of National Drug Control Policy, aka the Drug Czar. The report does not draw conclusions about the positive or negative impact of recreational and medical marijuana usage. A Minnesota woman accused of violating probation says she should be able to use marijuana for religious reasons because she belongs to a pot-smoking church based in Indiana. The Minneapolis Star-Tribune reports 31-year-old Ashley Fernschild argues to the Hennepin County District Court that marijuana laws place an undue burden on her beliefs as a First Church of Cannabis member. The Golden Valley woman is accused of smoking marijuana and violating her probation on a drug charge. Hennepin County Attorney Mike Freeman said in a statement that the First Amendment doesn't protect possessing or smoking marijuana. The church was established earlier this year in a test of Indiana's new religious objections law. It has sued the city of Indianapolis and the state of Indiana, claiming laws against possessing and using marijuana infringe on its religious beliefs. Imagine going to a gas station to fill up, going inside, and being able to buy medical marijuana. That's exactly what people in Colorado Springs are going to be able to do starting in October. Native Roots is set to open up 2 gas and grass locations. The combination of a gas station and medical marijuana dispensary is a first and started conversations about the pros and cons of the idea. The locations will have everything normal gas stations have, just with medical marijuana for patients with a card. Quote, "We figured this gave us the opportunity to potentially take a stop off their trips and give them one more opportunity to shop with us," end quote, said Native Roots spokesman Dave Cuesta. While some people said they like the idea of being able to fill up and get their medical marijuana at the same place, others are not so keen on the idea. Native Roots said public safety is its priority. Both locations will open in October. While they are each working toward the goal of legalizing marijuana in Massachusetts, a pair of fledgling ballot groups are at odds when it comes to the details. The Campaign to Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol, which counts former Assistant Attorney General Will Luzier among its members, is calling for a highly regulated marijuana marketplace. Under a competing proposal from Bay State Repeal, recreational marijuana would be subject to fewer restrictions and taxes. The proposal from the campaign to regulate marijuana like alcohol would establish a state cannabis control commission, which would oversee licensing for retail marijuana stores and processing facilities. Supporters now have until December 2nd to collect 64,750 signatures from registered voters as they work toward getting on the 2016 state ballot. If lawmakers vote to approve either proposal before May 2016, it could become law through the legislative process, bypassing the need for a ballot referendum. Advocates for legalized medical cannabis use in Iowa are taking their cause to the 2016 presidential race. The advocacy group Iowans for Medical Cannabis announced Tuesday it has developed a questionnaire that it plans to deliver to all the presidential candidates in the coming weeks. The group already has made efforts to reach out to the campaigns and the candidates themselves during their visits to Iowa. Iowans for Medical Cannabis in recent years has had limited success pressing state lawmakers to create a comprehensive medical marijuana law. The group will continue to press state lawmakers, but it will also use the opportunity provided by Iowa's prominent place in the presidential selection process to expand the message to the next president. Volunteers for the group statewide will attempt to address the candidates in person while they are in Iowa, and the questionnaire will also be delivered to each candidate's campaign office. This has been your 420 Radio News for Tuesday, September 15th, 2015. I'm Russ Belville.
The Russ Belville Show, the National Wildlife Refuge for Marijuana Unicorns.
The Russ Belville Show is proudly sponsored by the Marijuana Business Association. The MJBA, called by NBC News the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, is the fastest growing business association in the fastest growing industry in America. I've been working with the MJBA for years, and I personally invite you to join the MJBA. MJBA also publishes the popular MJ Headline News on Facebook and the MJNewsNetwork.com and Marijuana Channel 1 on YouTube. Visit mjba.net for more details. Tokers, there's no good reason to get your dog stoned. While it might not harm them physically, imagine being a dog who already begs for treats all day, and then imagine that dog having the munchies. Not cool. Oregon has joined Washington and Colorado in legalizing marijuana. We're Portland NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws chapter in Portland, Oregon. Join us as we celebrate the launch of an exciting new era in marijuana freedom in Oregon. Our job has just begun. Powerful interests want to white out the most important portions of Oregon's legalization law. By joining Portland NORML, you add your voice to the thousands who voted for Measure 91 and want it to be implemented as written. The people have spoken. Now it is time for the legislature to obey the will of the people. Find out more about Portland NORML at portlandnormal.org. Attend our monthly membership meetings on the fourth Saturday of the month. See our website for more details. Portland NORML, ensuring responsible adult marijuana consumers are afforded the same rights, privileges, and responsibilities as beer drinkers. The Nevada State Athletic Commission has suspended mixed martial arts fighter Nick Diaz for 5 years, a term the commissioner admitted was essentially a lifetime ban, given Diaz's age of 32 years and the short careers in the brutal sport. Diaz, an admitted marijuana user with a medical use recommendation from a California doctor, tested positive in one of 3 urine screenings administered for his fight in the UFC 183 event against Anderson Silva, who tested positive for anabolic steroids in his urine screenings. Silva was suspended for 1 year by the Nevada State Athletic Commission for the use of the dangerous performance-enhancing drug, 1/5 the punishment the commission just handed Diaz for the use of non-toxic munchie-enhancing drugs. The positive marijuana metabolite test was the 3rd failure for Diaz in Nevada. In 2007, Diaz was suspended for 6 months, and in 2012, he was suspended for 1 year. Nevada State Athletic Commission Chairman Francisco Aguilar alluded to the 3rd strike nature of Diaz's recent test, saying, quote, "This is not just a marijuana issue. This is an issue of marijuana, a lack of being forthright, a lack of cooperation to make the sport better, a disregard for rules. it hurts other athletes just as much, end quote. Apparently not if they take steroids, though. The conditions surrounding the failed test are strange. Before and after the UFC 183 fight, samples from Diaz were tested by the Sports Medicine Research and Testing Laboratory. This lab found Diaz to be below the 150 nanograms per milliliter carboxy-THC limit established by the World Anti-Doping Agency, a limit that was adopted 2 years ago by the Nevada State Athletic Commission to match Olympic standards and to catch only those competitors who have recently consumed marijuana. The Sports Medicine Research and Testing Laboratory is accredited by the World Anti-Doping Agency and is located in Salt Lake City. And let's be clear, the 150 nanogram per milliliter carboxy-THC limit is inactive metabolites in urine. It should not be confused with the 5 nanograms per milliliter active THC in blood that is the limit for impaired driving in Washington and Colorado. 2 different types of measurements here. So Diaz passed the 2 tests issued by Sports Medicine Research and Testing Laboratory, but a third test that was conducted between the pre- and post-fight tests by the other lab, this third test was administered by Quest Diagnostics. They are the nation's leading workplace drug testing corporation. That's the test Diaz failed, which his lawyers find quite suspicious. According to ESPN, a box titled Observed was left unmarked by the collector, which means Diaz might have provided the sample unsupervised. He also pointed out Diaz's name appeared on the sample. The labs are not supposed to be able to identify to whom the samples belong. Furthermore, the lawyers for Diaz argued the failed test was such an outlier when compared with the other 2 that it had to be unreliable. According to the Quest test, Diaz registered a marijuana metabolites level nearly 5 times the allowable limit, but in the Sports Medicine Research and Testing Lab tests, his levels were well below the allowable threshold. That's the end of ESPN's quote, but somehow, before the fight, Diaz tests below 150. Then for Quest, he tests almost 750. Then he gets into a fight, and then after the fight, he tests well below 150. Now, there's some confusion as to what the actual level was. Another source, MMA Junkie, reports that the second test was, quote, in excess of 300 nanograms per milliliter, or double the Nevada State Athletic Commission's allowed amount of 150 nanograms per milliliter, end quote. Either way, whether it was as high as 750 or in excess of 300, it's more than 100% greater than the other 2 tests showed. Diaz also reportedly was having trouble submitting a clean specimen in the process of getting licensed for the fight. Diaz's manager, Lloyd Pearson, allegedly inquired about a therapeutic use exemption, a waiver sometimes given for medical use of certain pharmaceuticals that will trigger a positive urine screen result for banned substances. But he wanted the therapeutic use exemption for the medical use of marijuana. The athletic commissions have been reticent to offer such exemptions for medical marijuana, even in states like Nevada where it's legal. And the commissioners often cite the illegality of marijuana under federal law. So the Nevada State Athletic Commission voted unanimously to end Nick Diaz's UFC Nevada career, not just UFC, any fight game in Nevada, to end his fighting career in Nevada over medical marijuana. Now, to add insult to injury, Nevada State Athletic Commissioner Anthony Marnell III is a 71% owner in a limited liability corporation that is applying to own and operate a medical marijuana dispensary in Las Vegas's Clark County. So apparently, it is forbidden for fighters in Nevada to benefit medically from marijuana, but the commissioners who ban fighters for medical marijuana can benefit financially from it and give 1/5 the punishment to someone who's using steroids.
Don't you blaspheme in here. Don't you blaspheme in here.
People ask, gee, Russ, it's legal. Now what does Normal have to fight for? This Here's a man who's losing his entire career in a state because marijuana is still prohibited. Even in states like Oregon, Washington, Colorado, and Alaska, these fighters can be punished by their athletic commissions for using a legal substance. But they can get drunk every night and never face punishment.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Get.Buzz. .Buzz is the internet platform that fuels community interest, excitement, and new experiences. .Buzz is the premier online destination for internet users seeking the latest news on a variety of topics. .Buzz appeals to groups active in blogging, communications, journalism, advertising, and marketing. .Buzz offers registrants a stronger alternative to the shrinking namespace of existing top-level domain names, such as .com, .net, and .org. Get your name now at get.buzz.
You're listening to 420 Radio. Listen Sundays at 1 p.m. Pacific for Hemp Beach TV, podcasting at hempbeach.com. Skunk and his crew bring you the best festivals and events from all over the country in this weekly show, courtesy of Hemp Beach TV. Entertaining and lots of fun for the 420-friendly party crowd. Check our online listings for Hemp Beach TV with Skunk and the crew from hempbeach.com.
The Fingerboard Extension has fretted instruments to enhance your creativity. It has new and used guitars and banjos from beginning to high class. The Fingerboard Extension has National Resophonic, Husson Dalton, Larrabee, Heritage and Recording King guitars, and Mike Ramsey, Wildwood, Gold Tone, and Recording King banjos. The Fingerboard Extension also has drum stuff, used gear, and parts. Stop by the Fingerboard Extension, downtown Corvallis, Oregon at 120 Northwest 2nd, or check out the inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com and reverb.com.
The Russ Belville Show. We're as much like Cheech and Chong as ordinary Americans are like the Three Stooges. Hey, Mo!
Reforming America's marijuana prohibition laws takes education, lobbying, and voting. From Washington, D.C. to your state capital to your city hall, marijuana law reform involves all levels of civic life. Learn how you can make your impact with elected officials as we take a look at our government at work.
Here are two of the best elected officials on marijuana in the United States of America.
Give it up for Senator Floyd Przansky and Representative Ann Linenger. Yo, make some noise. Make some noise, y'all. Boop, 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 boop. The reason we're here. The reason we're here.
Well, thank you, everybody, for being here and hearing our perspective on this really important issue. I'm Representative Ann Linenger, and I actually am co-chair of the Marijuana Legalization Committee together with Senator Burdick. And not only am I co-chair of the Marijuana Legalization Committee, but I was one of the original members of Moms for Yes on Measure 91. Yeah. And my son and I campaigned in support of Measure 91, and we talked to our friends about why it matters, even though I live in Lake Oswego, which is not renowned for being the very most socially progressive part of the state of Oregon, because it's really important. I represent Lake Oswego and Southwest Portland in the legislature, but as legislators, we represent all of the state. And I think that for all that people came to the table on the Measure 91 committee with different views about whether Measure 91 should have passed, and probably 3 of the House members came to the table as supporters, public supporters even, and perhaps the strong majority of the Senate members came to the table as people who might have voted against Measure 91. But by the end, I would say that because of your work and the great work of advocates like Lisa Nadeau and Anthony Johnson and Anthony Taylor and Leah Maurer and Jeff Sugarman and other wonderful people, by the end, I would say, well, we had unanimous support for crime reduction, sentence reduction, expungement legislation, and a lot of other good things. So we moved the conversation in the right direction, but my goodness, we have more work to do. So I think the main principles that are guiding us as we're moving forward are the need to protect patients in our community, the need to recognize that this is a gigantic, wonderful business opportunity for Oregon, which is why I'm so glad to be speaking at this business conference. And the need to recognize that we're in the middle of a pretty big cultural change in our state. Is anyone aware of the ArcView research report that recently came out? Right, that's pretty magnificent and powerful. It described that in 2014 there was a 74% increase in the legal cannabis market in the country. It went from a $1.5 billion a year market, I think, to a $2.7 billion a year market, which is giant. But even more amazingly, they articulated that when all 50 states legalize cannabis, which they will, right? It's a matter of time, but I think they will. It's going to be more than a $36 billion a year market, several billion dollars a year, more than the organics market. And that is powerful, and it's powerful in part because Oregon stands to really be at the forefront of that. You know, the innovation of people who've been in the sector for decades, the innovation of people who are coming here now to help build businesses in marketing and indoor and outdoor growing and product development are amazing. And when it becomes a traded sector product, that's going to be great for Oregon. And we can't lose sight of the fact that all those people who say we've got to be good to business need to be thinking of you. They need to be thinking of our issues and the things that we care about. And I'll tell you one reason why I care about it. I'll tell you two reasons. The other day, I was at a community event, and a constituent came up to me. She's about 80 years old. She presented herself as a very straight-laced, prim person, and she said, I'm trying really hard to be able to get my medical marijuana card, and I'm having a really hard time. I mean, I'm having a hard time because I'm 80 and I have arthritis and back problems. So it's actually hard to go all over the place and get the exams and the determination that I qualify. And then I've got to pay a whole bunch of money once I qualify so I can get the card. And if I don't do that, then all I can do is go into, maybe by October 1st, go into stores and buy a small portion of product. But I don't want to smoke it because I'm 80 and I'd be more comfortable taking it in other forms, and it just doesn't make sense. I mean, if this is good for pain management, we got to make it less painful to get. And so that is one inspiration that I have going forward. Yeah. And another inspiration I have is, as a kid, I grew up in Southern Oregon. So my family's actually lived in Southern Oregon in the Rogue Valley for 6 generations. So yeah, thank you for Southern Oregon, yes. So I remember 4th of July was a really big time there. They have a great parade in Ashland. If you haven't been, you should definitely go and cheer for Representative Buckley when he walks by. But I remember riding in a dump truck from our family's sand and gravel business. You know, my grandfather started a sand and gravel business, kind of rock mining, rock crushing construction business, and employed all the relatives. And I remember sitting perched on the edge of this dump truck with my cousins, and we were throwing little packets of rock candy. Anybody know that? It's like, looks like gravel, and it tastes really terrible, but it's kind of cool if you're in the sand and gravel business. So we were throwing little packets of rock candy out to our friends, and I remember feeling regal. I was a kid from Southern Oregon whose family did rock mining and rock crushing, and I felt like a queen riding through town, throwing rock candy to my friends because we had a family business that supported our family. We were leaders in the community for doing that, and we've got to not forget that also. Because think about what happened in Southern Oregon. I remember when the bottom fell out of the timber economy. Between 1979 and 1982, timber value was reduced by 50%. And by the time the housing market came back, and a lot of the other natural resource jobs, like the need for sand and gravel, really went down too, and all those rural communities where small family businesses were sustained by those natural resource jobs suffered. By the time the housing market came back, 48,000 jobs were gone from the Pacific Northwest that haven't come back. And lots of wonderful communities around our state, both urban but a lot of rural, have been casting around for something that we can do to provide great jobs for people, to help people support their families on good wages, where they can get health insurance, where they can do something that matters, where they can, you know, ride in a parade and feel great and proud because they're community leaders. And this sector, which helps people, which is full of some of the most idealistic entrepreneurs I know, is precisely the kind of thing that's going to work, right? I grew up in the Emerald Triangle. That's right. That's arguably the best place in the world to grow cannabis outdoors. And so we have to make sure we in the legislature support that, whether or not you're a Lake Oswego, Southwest Portland representative, or you're someone like my friend Carl Wilson in Josephine County who agrees that it's important, even though he's much more conservative than me. We have to support that. So we've got a lot of work to do. It wasn't perfect in this last session. I'm going to quickly describe some things that we did in the last session, and then I'm going to talk about some issues that I see as being important going forward. Hi, Rashawn. And then turn it over to my good friend, Senator Przanski. One of the things I feel most proud about from the last session is the criminal justice reform work we did, which you helped us do. That is crucial. I have a family member who is in jail right now, who has a drug addiction, and who couldn't get funding for who couldn't get a treatment bed at a time when he was ready to have treatment. And the fact of the matter is, we need to make sure that we are bringing in the revenue to support treatment and prevention. We need to make sure that we are not over-penalizing people whose issue is that they may have an addiction problem. And we need to make sure that someone who's made a choice to use something or sell something that we now believe should be legal doesn't get a millstone around the neck for the rest of their lives. So I am very happy about the criminal justice reform work we did. It has been said by the Criminal Justice Policy Foundation that 50,000 people are going to benefit from the crime reclassification and expungement work that you helped us get passed. So thank you. Yeah. Other good things, because it was a mixed bag, I'm not going to lie. Patients' rights, we passed a law that means that if you are using medical cannabis, you're not per se off the list for an organ transplant. Apparently it used to be that you were. That is a huge problem. So we passed that reform, and that's great. We passed a reform that says if you're in hospice and you want to ask someone other than your designated caregiver to administer medical marijuana for pain relief, that's okay. And if you both think that's okay, you and the caregiver, well then do it, because we're trying to help ease your pain, and it's a legal substance. We made sure that we kept taxes pretty low. By the account of LRO, Legislative Revenue Office, we actually modestly decreased them from what was in Measure 91, but we included in that a sweetener for local jurisdictions because, you know, cultural change, right? What I said is that it's a big cultural change and it's not equally embraced by everybody. We need to help local communities that feel like, hey, we're not ready for this. You know, we saw Reefer Madness a whole bunch of times in high school and it really freaked us out, so we're not ready for it. We need to help them understand that there are all kinds of reasons to embrace this change, and some of them can be the need to find resource to support crucial public services. So those are good things, but we played a lot of defense. We spent a lot of time trying to not cut back the medical marijuana program more than other people were driving to do. We spent a lot of time trying to protect the ability of medical growers to grow plants and not have extremely expensive regulations attached that would drive people out of the legal market. So what's next? Well, we're going to need you to help figure out what's next, because there are a lot of important issues. How much outside investment should be allowed? I don't want to see a legal cannabis market in Oregon that requires that you have a super rich benefactor here in Oregon for you to be able to do it, because of course you can't get bank loans. So I'd like to see some amount of outside investment be possible, but we need your guidance to help shape what makes sense, because we want to create and support local jobs too. We don't want to just become a plantation for outside investors who don't even live here to have cultivation and stores. You know, we want it to benefit people who are currently in the state too. We need to come to a decision on whether in medical dispensaries, what range of products you can sell to the rec market. You know, the friend I was talking to you about earlier, she really wishes that we could sell extracts to rec buyers from dispensaries. I think that's something that we should consider as we wait for the rec stores to open. We need to figure out if rec stores should be able to sell tax-free medical products. I mean, I really want to know what you folks think about this, because there are considerations on both sides right now. There is not a tax-free ability to sell to the medical market from rec stores. We need to figure out if we're hurting patients. You know, we heard a lot of information about that, and we need to, as we move forward, we need to hear how it's going. So there's a lot we need to work on. Earlier today, I came from something, the Max Orange Line. Does anyone here take public transportation ever? Hopefully, you should. It's great. So we worked for decades when I was a county commissioner to move forward a light rail project called the Max Orange Line, and at times there was shocking opposition. People got recalled. People lost in their elections. People pointed pictures of gun barrels facing me at us in a county commission meeting because they didn't like the idea that we were going to support this change. For some people, it means Portland values coming into Clackamas County. It was a really hard issue. But today we celebrated that we got there. We celebrated that Tillicum Crossing has been built. We celebrated that the line has been complete, and a lot of people who were uncomfortable about it at the beginning celebrate us with us. And that's what I see as a future for legal cannabis and medical cannabis. You know, there are people who are still uncomfortable, but we're going to help them know that this is okay for them, whether or not they choose to use it. This is okay for our community. This creates great opportunity for our community. But in the meantime, we've got some risk. You may not know this, but in the last couple of days, some websites have popped up. Parents Against Pot, you know, as the counterpoint to Moms for Yes on Measure 91. And another was Stop Pot 2016. And they prominently feature Senator Brzezinski and me as people they're not really appreciating that much. So what we need to do, in addition to the other good work that you're going to identify for us and the points that I've tried to raise, we need to help legislators see that being an advocate for this sector, that being a champion of legalization and patients' access to medicine does not make you weaker, does not make you lose your job, brings around you friends who understand that this is part of a positive cultural change in our community. So going forward, I'm going to invite you to try to show the larger legislative body they don't need to back away from these issues or vote no out of concern for self-preservation. They can vote yes because it's the right thing to do and because it's a fine and safe thing to do, and you'll be there with us. So I'll encourage you to do that too. For now, I'm turning it over to my great friend and legalization champion, Senator Brzezinski. Thank you. I look forward to hearing your thoughts.
That's champion Representative Ann Leininger from Lake Oswego, Oregon, speaking at the Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference that took place this last weekend at the Hilton in Portland. Senator Brzezinski is next. His speech coming up at the end of this hour. Before that, though, we've got some quick little nuggets to deliver, including the anti-drug public service announcement of the day featuring Jesse from Saved by the Bell. And then, long-lost clip from the Lawrence Welk Show, One Toke Over the Line. That's right, the Brewer and Shipley tune. Coming up, Lawrence Welk style.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show.
At Herbie's Cannabis Seeds, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best quality seeds from the world's most respected cannabis seed producers, all at the lowest online prices. You can find Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. All cannabis seeds are sold as souvenirs and as a means of preserving cannabis genetics. Herbie's Seeds in no way intends to condone, promote, or incite the use of illegal or controlled substances. We strongly urge all prospective customers to check their national laws prior to placing an order. Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. Proud sponsors of the Russ Belville Show and 420 Radio.
You know Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs, we've got Frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs, we've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com. And follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher on Twitter.
In the interest of fair and balanced journalism, the Russ Belville Show presents the anti-drug public service announcement of the day.
Pills? You mean you really are taking drugs?
I need them.
Jesse, give me those.
I need them, Zach. I have to sing.
Jesse, you can't sing tonight.
Yes, I can. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so scared.
Jesse.
This has been the anti-drug public service announcement of the day. To cure this sort of reefer madness, listen to the Russ Belville Show every weekday on 420radio.org.
Thank you very much. Now, here's an attractive couple, Gail Farrell from Durant, Oklahoma, Dick Dale from Algona, Iowa. Excuse me. Let's listen to Gail and Dale and one of the newer songs.
One toke over the line, sweet Jesus, one toke over the line. Sitting downtown in a railway station, one toke over the line. Waiting for the train that goes home, sweet Mary, hoping that the train is on time. Sitting downtown in a railway station, one toke over the line. Who do you love? I hope it's me. I've been changing, as you can plainly see. I felt the joy and I learned about the pain
That my mama said.
If I should choose to make a part of me, would surely strike me dead. And now I'm one toke over the line, sweet Jesus, one toke over the line. Sitting downtown in a railway station, one toke over the line. Waiting for the train that goes home, sweet Mary, hoping that the train is on time. Sitting downtown in a railway station, one toke over the line. One toke over the line, sweet Jesus, one toke over the line. Sitting downtown in a railway station, one toke over the line.
Don't you know that we're
Waiting for the train that goes home, sweet Mary, hoping that the train is on time. Sitting downtown in a railway station, one toke over the line.
Don't you know that we're
Sitting downtown in a railway station, one toke over the line.
And there you heard a modern spiritual by Gail and Dale.
This is Radical Russ encouraging you to take a look at the Weed Blog every day. Johnny Green and the staff at the Weed Blog are on top of all the latest developments in the fight to end marijuana prohibition nationwide. You can even get the Weed Blog on your smartphone by installing the Weed Blog app for iPhone and Android. If it's about weed, it's on the Weed Blog, including my original writing. So don't delay, read the Weed Blog today. Hey everybody, it's Radical Russ here from 420 Radio, inviting you to be like me and get your ink done at Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo, Fort Worth's most female-friendly, clean, sterile, awesome tattoo shop. Thomas and his crew are true artists who can design you a custom piece or use a design you bring in. Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo also offers all styles of tattooing as well as piercings and all-around fun. In the DFW area, stop by Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Trust me, it'll feel awesome.
This is Joy Beckerman Maher, and you're listening to 420radio.org.
Reforming America's marijuana prohibition laws takes education, lobbying, and voting. From Washington, D.C. to your state capital to your city hall, marijuana law reform involves all levels of civic life. Learn how you can make your impact with elected officials as we take a look at our government at work.
Oregon State Senator Floyd Przansky at the Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference.
So good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for having Ann and myself here. I'm Floyd Przansky, State Senator, District 4, which includes parts of Lane and Douglas counties. I'm honored to be asked to be back for the conference this year, and I want to just tell you that the work that Ann did as the one of the co-chairs for the implementation committee on Measure 91 was very phenomenal, because it took an opportunity, because the way we worked the committee is we had House and Senate members sitting together, no pun intended, but as a joint committee. And at that point, what we were trying to do is cut down where we wouldn't see everything going repetitiously on each side of the two chambers. And Ann had the task of moving forward the House side of the agenda, and then my colleague, co-chair on the Senate side, Jenny Burdick, had the task for the Senate side. I had the opportunity to be one of the co-vice chairs on the Senate side, and I very appreciated having that opportunity. What we wanted to do and what we tried to do was two different perspectives of what we were wanting to accomplish. If you've not been involved in the legislative process, I can tell you there's a point on your legislative sessions that it becomes what is known as sausage making. Sausage making is not a good thing to be involved in. Most people who see sausage being made don't usually eat sausage after seeing it being made. And this is the unfortunate part that we found ourselves in toward the end of the session, because there were a demand on my side of the chambers, on the Senate side of leadership, that we had to have bipartisan support for whatever pieces of legislation we're going to move forward. You can understand that the frustration that some of us, including myself, had when you have a supermajority of 18-12. It's not that you're trying to force your way on anyone, but you believe in your public policies. You want them to go forward. What you don't want to see them is getting watered down to accommodate some needs that we feel that are not necessary, not appropriate. As Anna said, some of the stuff that we will in fact be working on in this next short session in 16 and going into 17 is more justice reform in the war against marijuana. I will tell you from a personal note, my day job, because we do not meet on a daily basis in the legislature. Most of us have to be employed outside unless you're retired or independently wealthy. I can say for myself and for Ann, we don't meet that, and so we do have day jobs. Both of us are attorneys. My attorney practice is doing prosecution work for municipalities that have criminal ordinances. And so I have the opportunity to serve in my communities, 2 different communities, as a prosecutor, and actually on the ground level of seeing what the impacts actually are to individuals that are actually faced with some of the outcomes that occur through our policies that we've had. And as Alex said, we did make some great strides during this last session in trying to right the ship and get us back in a better perspective. But as you can imagine, there are a lot of individuals that were coming on this trip with us who were not ready to, let's say, go as far as we did, and so we did have to scale back. So there is going to be more room to go forward. Our presentation today, what we want to do is kind of just gloss over some of the areas, and if you're here in Oregon, I know that there are many individuals that are probably from out of state, but if you are an Oregon resident and you want to follow the legislation that we passed, what I'd like to do is tell you, first of all, you can go to any search engine, find the Oregon State Legislature, and from there you can go into the bills and to the laws. What you would want to do is go into the 2015 session, which we just completed, to look at the actual bills, and you'll want to look at the bills that are they're categorized as enrolled. The enrolled bill means it was actually the one that was the final bill that was actually signed into law. So the bills that we had that are instrumental in what the work that we did, House Bill 3400 is the major bill that has the reforms as it pertains to the medical changes that had to be made to get compromise, as well as in the area of rec cells and what's going to be coming based on Measure 91 passing this last November. That's about 10 pages of reading for you. What I would tell you is that as you go through that, you'll start seeing some similarities, and there's different captions and areas that you may want to focus on. But if you have issues and questions, feel free to contact my office, and we'll do our best to ensure you get the information that you need. Senate Bill 460 was another bill that we passed. Some people refer to this as early rec cells. Many of us thought this were too late cells, because we really should have had this up and running on July 1 when Oregonians had the right and do have the right today to legally possess. They don't have a legal access to actually receive or purchase recreational marijuana. Come October 1, in just a few more weeks, we will have that opportunity. It had to be also looked at in a sense of, instead of just allowing any and all dispensaries to do it, there are some limitations. First, the dispensary has to want to sell recreational side, plus the communities that they're in, either in a city, if they're within an incorporated city limits, or in the outside of the incorporated city limits, the county have to agree to allow those existing dispensaries to have rec sales during this period of time. The goal here is to ensure that we have a transition for individuals who are wanting to be in the using marijuana on the recreational side, to be able to make that transition in what I'm going to call a more smoother transfer than what we saw in our sister states of Colorado as in Washington State. Our goal is that we will, and what was required under the statute is that an individual who wants to purchase marijuana for recreational use will be limited during the purchasing through the dispensaries to being able to purchase up to 1/4 ounce of what is defined as usable marijuana. Usable marijuana is the leaf or bud and flowers of the plant. Also, there'll be the ability to buy clones or start plants as well during this buildup. What we will see is that the recreational side is not going to be up and running for retail sales outlets probably for another year from today. At the earliest, sometime in September 2016 is what OLCC has said. And so we'll basically have an opportunity between now and that time to allow individuals to be able to exercise their right to possess and have a course to be able to purchase it through these dispensaries who are participating. There is a possibility, I'm not sure to what level, that we may see some changes as to what will occur through that level of service in the February session that will be coming up. It's a very short session. Our short session is 35 days in length, and so you can only imagine that if you're really going to try to move something through, you have to have everyone on board. So I'm not sure what, if any, modifications we'll be able to make to what we've done in this past session, which was about 5 months in length. But we will be focusing for some changes where we have built those alliances and we have enough support to move forward in February. And for those projects that we have not reached that threshold, we'll move back and regroup and get ready for the 2017 session. The other two bills I'll just mention to you that you may want to look at, Senate Bill 844, that establishes a task force. One of the things that we want for Oregon is to be on the cutting edge, looking at when we have a nationwide legalization, how we are going to be able to position this state economically to be one of the drivers in the cannabis industry throughout the country. This task force will, in fact, allow for a lot of buildup and what we can expect and do on the medical side, as well as what we'll see as to, I think, in the recreational side as well. And it will have leading people in the industry and from all different disciplines coming together and working for the goal of making certain Oregon is positioned for the future. Also within that bill is dealing with expungement. Ann talked briefly about some of the changes that we've made, and so if you are an individual or have someone that close to you that may have had a prior conviction, you'll want to look at that area to see if they can get relief immediately going through this process of having their record expunged from a prior criminal conviction. The last, I believe I have the House bill number correct, 2041, is the one that deals with taxing of marijuana. Very briefly, that is a program that there was a lot of discussion as to how we were going to implement taxing for recreational, at what level was it going to be. The measure actually called for it to be at the grower level. We were persuaded, and I think rightfully, that it should be at the point of sale, and that's what you're going to see. And so we have shifted that. The amount of the tax is the lowest of any place in the country. 17% is what the baseline is, with the opportunity for the locals, if they are on board and allowing for sales, to have up to 3% that was local. And when I say up to 3%, that means if a city wants to impose a tax, it will only be on the facilities or within that city's limits. If you have a facility that's outside of the city limits, inside the county would have that same opportunity, but only for the facilities in the unincorporated areas. In other words, the cities can't add 3% and the counties can't add another 3%. It's a total of 3%. So we're at 20%. And this is what I believe is one of the most important things when we're looking at the Cole memo. For those who are not familiar with the Cole memo, this is what came out of the Fed's Department of Justice. It has about 8 points in there that we have to follow. And one of the things is trying to make certain the underground market, the drug cartels are not being facilitated through recreational sales. And we believe by having the lower taxing that we will be able to have a better edge and attempt to compete against the underground market. So with that, I guess there's one thing. We're going to go take questions. We're going to sit down and take questions like Anthony did. I will respond to two things I heard Anthony said that caused me a little bit of concern to hear that the rules are being written this way. I'm assuming these are the drafting of the rules from OLCC. One of the questions that came out earlier is having spouses or significant others being required to have a background check. I don't get it. I'm not sure what in the heck that is going to do. To me, and what Ann and what we've talked about is what we're trying to do is take a commodity that has been a proven commodity in history and bringing it back to being legitimate, and we're going to treat it like alcohol. And I don't know when OLCC requires a spouse or a significant other or someone has a license under the alcohol side should have, if they don't do it there, why are we doing it on the cannabis side? So with that, I know that y'all have a lot of questions. We'll try to get as much information to you today, and if not, I believe I can speak for both of us. If you have other additional questions, you can link to us off of our web page for the legislature. You can find any of the legislators there, and you can send questions. And then if we don't have the information, we do have our certified smart person down in Legislative Council. Mark Meyer was a significant individual in this push, and we've given a lot of acknowledgments to a lot of people today from what I've heard. The one thing I can tell you, without having a person like Mark being the driver in the Legislative Council, understanding this subject backwards, forwards, and sideways, we would not be able to come up with the products that we did as quickly as we did and actually make sure that we're crossing the T's and dotting the I's. So please, if you have questions, we'll try to get through them.
We'll get to that question and answer session with Representative Leininger and Senator Przonski, trying to pronounce both their names correctly, at the end of Hour 2. So those of you listening live, stay tuned. Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio, will have the question and answer session with Representative Leininger and Senator Przonski. We've also got Ted Rowe, one of Oregon's finest cannabis producers, talking about the new regulations and market. And for our Electric Tuesday Daily Toker Tunes, Electric Bob will be joining us, bringing us some electrically infused music. That's all the time we got for the podcast. Thanks for joining us. For everyone here at Rolla J Studios in beautiful, legal Potland, Oregon, I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.
Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation. Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, you know, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great.
Just like cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel?
Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
Welcome back, everybody. Toker Talk Radio, Hour 2 of the Russ Belville Show, live for those of you listening on 420radio.org, on TuneIn Radio, or the 420 Radio app. And you can catch the replays, the archives, on 420radio.org as well. Hanging out here in Rolla J Studios, and a big shout out going to our friends at Strong Silicone. Strong Silicone, responding to the pleas of Herb Thrasher for a bong I cannot break. There we go, folks. Cannot break this bong. There's no possibility that Radical Russ can break his 4th studio bong this year. It's not going to happen. Thanks to the folks at Strong Silicone. And listening on the radio, of course, you can't see it, but it's just a tube bong about 16 inches tall, standard, size, that you'd expect from like a glass, but it's nice, strong silicone, like the name says. And you can squeeze it. It's interesting to be able to squeeze a bong. And as you're taking the hit, right, you can kind of feel it in your hand because your hand's up against the water on that kind of pliable silicone, right? Got a nice round base, about, 4 inch round base, pretty topple proof. And best of all, it's glow in the dark. We have a glow in the dark bong for Rolla J Studios to go with our glow in the dark kind ashtray. We got the complete glow in the dark paraphernalia thing going on. That's all right by me. I don't have a lot of time to talk in this second hour because we have so much from the Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference to get to. Coming up next, Ted Rowe, master grower here in Oregon, on Oregon cannabis production law. Then we'll have our daily Toker Tunes for Electric Tuesday. Electric Bob be calling in. We'll get some electronically infused music. And then we close the hour out with the question and answer session with Representative Leininger and Senator Przonski from the Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference. Coming up tomorrow, we will have, hopefully, our hemp Day Hump Day with Doug Fine calling in. And then Thursday and Friday, still working on some of the bookings. But coming up next week, very excited to announce on Tuesday, we'll be speaking with Steve D'Angelo from Harborside Health Center and his book, The Cannabis Manifesto.
America's RR7 secret agent of progressive change.
The name's Belville. Russ Belville.
This is the Russ Belville Show.
Yes, on my way to the Boston Freedom Rally next weekend, not this weekend. September 26th, 27th, I'll be there speaking at the Freedom Rally, getting interviews, getting recordings. So many events coming up after that. Las Vegas Hemp Fest the following week, as well as the Dope Cup pre-party here in Portland. I'll be at the Oregon Hemp Convention the following weekend. The weekend after that, Virginia Normal Conference in Richmond, Virginia. The entire schedule is available at 420radio.org/schedule.
As a